doing something on my computer here, and then I'll get back in position.
Oh, sure.
And here we go. Welcome to Free Hands Friday, number 21. My name is Russell Keating, and today our guest is Nathen Aswell, and Dale Ladouceur is interviewing him, as continuing with our Canadian series. So good to see our group of people here, and oh, there we go. So we know we're in the right place. Let's see that flag, Dale.
Oh, well, it's
Okay.
ginormous.
Yes, it is. You're going to have to go stand outside and point the camera through the window for us to see all of that. Anyway, I'm going to hand it over to Dale to start the interview. So welcome, Nathen, and take it away, Dale.
Thanks, Russell.
Well, hallelujah. Yeah, but did I just lose you guys?
I still hear you.
Okay, but you can't see me, right?
I can see you.
Okay, sorry. I just lost the image. That's all right. Oh, here you are. Yeah, welcome everyone, and welcome Nathen. It's lovely to be here connecting with all of you, and especially with someone that has been playing stick as pretty much as long as I have. Nathen, your bio that you sent me was extremely vague. It cites you as a gifted speaker. Yeah, vague. Cites you as a gifted speaker and a recording artist and a musician. I know personally that you live on a boat, or at least you did live on a boat. And I know that your bio claims that you play and write heart-centered music. Heart-centered music. I find that totally prejudicial and offensive to the rest of your internal organs, so I'm just wondering, what have you got to say right here and now to your pancreas?
I'd say that I love my pancreas just as equally as I love all the rest of my organs. Thank you.
All right, then. You are, how long have you been playing stick, and walk us through your discovery of the instrument?
Well, Dale, that's a very interesting question. It's been an extremely circuitous route for me. I saw Tony, of course, like everyone else. I saw Tony playing in a King Crimson video in '82, and I just said, "What is that? I have to figure out how to do that." The next thing I remember is walking into a music store in Montreal, spending about a half an hour trying to tune one, and then putting it down and walking away. And I was curious about the whole thing, and just I had no idea. Of course, in those days there was no internet, there was no way to connect to the community like we are doing right now. So I was kind of wandering around in the dark for a long time, wanting to learn more about it, but just not knowing how to proceed. And it literally took until '96 when Tony was interviewed in Bass Player magazine and talked about, I can't remember what the online discussion group was called at the time. Yeah, it escapes me at this point. But suddenly, there was a group of people online that were talking about all things stick. And after a very short time, I think literally about a week or something after joining that, I went down to Seattle, got my first instrument, and shortly after that, I went to my first stick seminar in Fullerton, California, with Greg and Bob Culberton teaching. And to be in a room with however many of us there were, about a dozen, I think, was just wonderful to have us all be together, because geographically we were just spread out all over the place. So I told Greg how excited I was to be in a room full of other players, and he said, well, if you organize one in Vancouver, I'd be happy to come. So I did exactly that about 6 months after that, and that's where I met you. 17 people came to my seminar from as far away as California and from as far away in Canada as Edmonton, and I'm sorry, I always forget. Yeah, who came with you. So that was absolutely delightful. I did that 2 years in a row. I was unable to continue doing it because then I started touring a lot myself. So Jim Meyer took it over in 2000. And all this time, I'm playing Chapman Stick, and it's not intuitive. I'm not getting anywhere on it. I'm feeling frustrated, but not willing to let go. And so continuing to look for the instrument that would enable me to make music. And finally, in '99, Emmett and Ned Steinberg got together and created this thing. I got my first one in 2002, and was scared to death to play it with both hands. So I played it just as a bass for 6 years, until Don Schiff, God bless his pointy little head, said, "Do yourself a favor and put your guitar away and just do it. Just jump in the water and learn how to do it," which is exactly what I did. So I've been playing, long answer to your question, but I've been playing, finally been playing since 2008. And now that I can get around on the ANS, the Chapman Stick is calling me again, so I've got an order in for a new 12-string grand, which I hope to have very soon.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So when I had done my Freehands Friday, you had talked to me about how you are you're excited, but you have some trepidation about approaching the grand again, because you, quote, don't think like a stick player because you've been playing an S-stick for so long. First, before you get into that, could you walk the neophytes through the difference between the NS stick and the Chapman stick?
Yes. So the Chapman Stick is, most people who play Chapman Stick have either a 10 or a 12-string version of it. On the bass side, there are 5 or 6 strings that are tuned in fifths. On the melody side are 5 or 6 strings tuned in fourths. And the real mind bender is that the bass strings are upside down. So the lowest strings are in the middle of the neck and fan out from the center. And this is the primary reason why I just have never felt that I could get anywhere on it, because my Virgo linear brain wants to have both hands playing in the same direction and the same tuning, and I just couldn't let go of that. So enter the NS stick, which is 8 strings, tuned low to high, like a 5-string bass, B, E, A, D, G, and then 3 more strings added on top, C, F, B flat. So it makes a lot more sense to my fingers. Tonally, it sounds a lot more like a bass and a guitar together, so that works for my ears. And what excites me about it is that it has enabled me to build on what I already know. I've been a bass player for years. Like every other teenage kid that I knew who got into music, I played guitar a little bit before that, so this is an opportunity for me to bring all that together. And it's like playing bass and guitar combined, and compositionally it opens things like a piano, because I can just get away from always being locked into having my left hand play exactly the same thing chordally, or part of the chord that's in my right hand. And this way it just opens up the playing field in many ways. So it's affected my songwriting a great deal too.
Would you play us a piece of an instrumental?
I'm sorry, I can't play at all. Just kidding. Let me see. I'll play this. Can you hear that?
Yes.
I'll just play a little bit of this because it's it kind of shows off one of the techniques that I wanted to show. Actually, yeah, let me play this one. May I be kind, may you be kind, may we be kind to all. May I be kind, may you be kind, may we be kind to all. So what I like about that is live audience in the house. Excuse me. So what I like about that is one of the things that I've really enjoyed playing with is with my left hand I'm playing the bass notes of the chord, obviously. With my right hand I'm just playing triads. But the fun thing is I'm adding the color notes, what I call, you know, the extension notes, the 6s or the 7s or the 9s, whatever, with my pinky of my left hand. So it gives me a much richer. So I'm doing
crossover.
I'm sorry.
That was some crossover.
So this, you know, to just slow it down, this kind of thing. So I end up getting much nicer voicings, which kind of mimic what you can do on a Chapman stick with the overlay between the strings on the bass side and on the guitar side. You get a lot more of that. So I've sort of found a way to cheat and get it on an NS stick. Yeah, that kind of thing. So.
Now, before Russell gets the chance to ask you this question, do you think of yourself as a songwriter, or do you think of yourself as an NS stick player, or how do you approach that? I'm almost saying it word for word how he hit me up with this.
I know. I'm so glad I asked you that question, Dale, because that was quite a revelation when you said that. So for the benefit of those who didn't hear it, Dale and I, before she did her Free Hands Friday, I said to her, Dale, my challenge is I can't think like a stick player. How can I learn to think as a stick player? I know how to think as a guitar player, as a bass player, as a vocalist, but not as a stick player. And she said, I think like a songwriter. And it just blew me away that she gave that answer, because that is how I approach the NS stick completely. Completely. It's all about the song for me. So, when I see people like Don and Tom Griesgraber and, Tony, these guys who are stick players, I always feel I'm not worthy because I see them doing all this incredibly technical stuff. But for me, it's all about the voice. It's all about the song. And the stick is accompanying that. It's playing a secondary role to what I have to say with my voice. So I'm constantly trying to improve as a player, but it's just a whole different way of approaching it than those guys. It's kind of apples and oranges. So your comment was a real gift. I was really, really happy that you said that. I was not expecting it. It just changed everything for me. So thank you.
Well, I'll invoice you.
Thank you.
When you were playing stick initially, did you also sing as well, or did the singing come to you more readily while you were playing the NS?
Oh, I've been singing for years. Singing has been. I started as a singer when I was 14, and then after messing around on guitar for a couple of years, I became a singing bass player. So I worked all the time because everyone was playing guitar. So that was great. And so my challenge when I started playing NS was to get past the point, and I remember this very clearly, where it's like adding one more plate, 2 hands and a voice. It's, wow, what do I do and how do I coordinate all that? And I remember one significant part of that process was when I got to the point where I was able to continue singing even when my hands, where I literally fell on my face on the ice with my hands. If I could keep singing, people wouldn't notice that so much. So I thought, okay, that's one more sign of progress, that I can sing all the way through without my hands making it. And then, over time, my hands joined the party, and now we're all in on it together, which is great. But I could never, except for very simple things, I couldn't sing and play the Chapman Stick.
Okay. So you're tackling that again.
Yes, ma'am, I am. Because I now understand what it is that this enables me to do and what the Chapman Stick would enable me to do. So quite simply, the NS stick enables me to play walking bass lines very easily, which would be much harder to play on the Chapman Stick because of the 5th bass. And the disadvantage of this tuning is, because I'm using a lot of the strings to play chords with both hands, if I'm trying to solo, there's no strings to solo on, because those are the strings I'm using to play the chords. So with the Chapman Stick tuning, having the strings moving in opposite directions, my hands never run into each other. So that's the plus of that. So I'm specifically interested in playing the Chapman Stick so I could develop my soloing, to have moments where I stop singing and then it's an instrumental thing. That's specifically where I'm going with that instrument.
So are you looking into having one of those ZZ Top ball-bearing kind of holsters so that you can carry all of your armaments and wear them, so that, I think that would be just rockin'.
Well, no, in a word, no. I laugh. Don has figured out a way to travel with both of his sticks in the same bag and bring them on an airplane. I mean, he's...
Wow.
Yeah. How he's able to do that without running into trouble, I have no idea. But he showed me. It's a beautiful bag, but yeah, he crams his NS and his Chapman Stick into the same bag and puts it over his shoulder, and away he goes.
Wow. He probably lines it with donuts.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So listen, it's very hard to separate, you know, the instrumentalist you from the songwriter you. There's something else that I find very hard to separate, and that is your songwriting and your new thought, positive, spiritual kind of place that you write from. Would you say that most everything that you write is more of that new thought, kind of positive place that you're coming from as a songwriter?
Yeah, I've been a musician. I've been making music since I was 14, so for 40 years now. And so for a long time, that was me playing. I used to describe it as having a Saturday night life and a Sunday morning life. And for the longest time, there were these two parallel trains that never met. And over time, of course, they started to intertwine. And I made a decision in September of 2010 to give up my Saturday night life because I really feel like making music is a gift, and I want to be able to connect to the power of that, the healing power of that, as completely as I can. And the gift of walking away from the Saturday night life over probably the next year or so after I made that decision was realizing that to a certain extent I had thrown the baby out with the bathwater, that there's still plenty of room for me to be the rock and roll hollering guy, the R&B shouting guy, while I'm doing the positive music thing. So in my last CD, Yes, which came out in October of 2013, I felt like I was able to integrate much more of myself than I had on the previous CD. So it comes down to intention. And that said, my intention, yeah, in whatever I'm playing is to always be coming from a place of healing and inspiring.
So can you give us a sample of some of the new work that's on Yes?
Yeah, sure.
No, that's Yes.
And I have a group of people here who would be able to help me very well in this song. This song is called I Say Yes. And it has a part that I need people to sing along, so luckily I have some people. Jenny, would you please instruct your family members what to do?
Yes.
So this is called I
We
Say
say yes.
Yes. And literally that's all you have to say and sing. So it just goes, I'll say yes,
Yes.
to the thing itself, yes,
Yes.
to the way it works, yes,
Yes.
to what it does,
Yes. 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 Yes.
So it goes. So I say yes,
Yes.
the thing itself, yes,
Yes.
the way it works, yes,
Yes.
what it does,
Yes. 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 Yes.
how to use it, God, Spirit, that's the thing itself, cause of all creation, origin of everything, it's what makes me sing, powerful foundation, whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm going, it's the voice that whispers in my ear. I say yes,
Yes.
the thing itself, yes,
Yes.
the way it works, yes,
Yes.
what it does,
Yes. 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 Yes.
how to use it. Look at that.
So no blues gigs for you, eh?
No blues gigs for me.
So what have you been focusing on as of late regarding, like, have you been traveling? Have you been doing? I know you've been doing some traveling. Did you get to play abroad?
I did. I've been doing a lot of traveling. I've fallen in love with this American gal who's a fantastic singer-songwriter, and she has been a professional speaker for the last 20 years. So she started a mastermind-like group last September, which I've been a part of, and it's just been mind-blowing to be learning from her. All of us have been learning a great deal from her, and it's very much about, I have been feeling for a long time like I've been preaching to the choir. Most of the time when I'm performing, not always, but a good percentage of the time I'm playing at churches or centers is another word that's used, places where people are used to receiving spiritual type messages. And so now it's time for me to reach a much wider audience. And so with Jana's guidance and inspiration, yeah, I'm doing exactly that. I'm learning a lot about moving into a much wider world and figuring out how to serve that audience with my music. And it's really exciting. In the last few months, I've performed in 7 different countries. Besides Canada and the US, I've been to and performed in Singapore, Cambodia, Thailand, Myanmar, and Penang, Malaysia. And yeah, my goal is I have a vision board. I did have a vision board at home. And one of the things that I wrote on the vision board was wanting to perform in every country on every continent. So I'm on my way.
Yes, yes. Tell me about some of the challenges that you've had with traveling with the NS Stick. Does it have an adjustable truss rod? Does it bow a lot when you're dealing with those different humidities?
You know, I was quite surprised when I traveled. It's much more humid and hot in those countries, and I didn't notice. I didn't have to make any adjustments to the truss rod the whole time I was away. The bigger problem, unfortunately, I got to Singapore and I plugged in my effects unit, which was the Pod X3, and I thought that my converter was going to convert the voltage. All it did was all it did was make sure that I could plug it into the 220-volt source, but not much else. So after about a minute, my X3 said, "No, no, no!" Poof. So
did it explode?
It didn't explode, but it died. It died very quickly. So the plus of that is that I now have the Pod HD 500X, and it's lovely. And I was saying to Jean just before you and I started this morning that has a power supply that a voltage. It can work on voltage between 100 and 240 hertz. So I've solved that issue, I'm happy to say.
Excellent. Hey, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the other interesting challenge that I'm working on, and it's a lot of fun, is figuring out how to go wireless. So I just bought some two great wireless systems, again with Jana's input from Electrosonics. They're based in New Mexico. And they are specifically designed for the film world. So the plus of them, the units that I got, is they're very small. Both the receivers and transmitters are smaller than an iPhone, and so they're extremely portable, very powerful. And so getting used to playing with one of those things to sing through. And I still have to figure out what I'm going to do about effects, because I don't want to be playing dry through the house PA. So it's an interesting world to be moving into sonically.
I just am test driving. Sorry, I'm just going to show you this here. I've just been test driving this amazing thing from TC Electronics that I've been test driving on my Melody side of the stick. And it's beautiful. The parameters by which you can modify some of the sounds is incredible. They have a dynamics mix that you can that's positive or inverted, where the if it's positive, the effect will sustain after your note has left, which is a lovely thing to have for the stick, because sometimes, depending on how you're playing or what you're playing, what your composition is, the stick can be very staccato.
Right.
Yeah, there's a room sound, the spring, the hall, the plate, and specials, they call them, which is, you got to check this thing out. I'm not that I get any kind of cut from the company, but I'm finding that when I just test drove it last night for the first time, and I couldn't stop playing. My amp, my little 50-watt Yorkville amp, had never sounded better. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's also very organic sounding, and you tend to write fairly organic pieces, if I may say. Would you agree with that?
Okay. What does organic mean to you?
Well, you have no genetically modified parts, and what do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, organic
Okay.
is an open word. I don't know what it means for you. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Okay, so organic to me means that there's not a lot of heavy processing, and you write from your internal organs. Yeah, we're coming around to that again. Where you don't write contrived. You don't go, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a song about feeling good. You know, you write from more of a stream of consciousness kind of an approach. Is that an assumption of mine?
That is definitely an assumption of yours, my dear. You are the stream of consciousness gal. The way that I write, and I've tried writing other ways, but so far my process is I will get an idea. There's usually some main idea that I want to express, and so that'll be the kernel of the chorus. Kernel of the chorus, I like that.
Write that down.
Once I have that, then I start, I remember someone saying to me a long time ago that composition is just a series of decisions. And so that's what happens. Once that decision happens, then it's like, okay, so this is what I want to express. And then that influences everything else. Tempo, feel, all those kinds of things. And it's just kind of one decision after another. Effects are not a big part of what I do. I was saying to Jean earlier that, I have this amazing effects unit, and it's like using a Cadillac to go to the corner store to get a quart of milk. Like I barely scratched the surface of what I can do. It's got very good quality sounds. I found like a handful that I like, and that's all I use it for. I've gone through the whole process of, doing stuff to the bass side, the guitar side. Now I don't even use the bass side. I don't process it in any way. I just process the guitar side. I still like using this unit though because I want my setup to be as simple as possible. So I show up, I plug this in, I give 2 XLRs to the sound person, and that's it. I'm done. And it makes me laugh because we all go through this journey with this instrument. How do we amplify it? What effects do we use? And so I used to carry around this pile of Boss pedals and put all this stuff on the floor and connect it and power supplies and then sum them up, and it's forget it. So I'm really happy that's over. Same with amplifiers. I literally, at one point, in a very brief point in my life, I'm happy to say, carried around a guitar amp and a bass amp so that I could make each side sound different, and realized in the end I didn't have to do any of that. It wasn't necessary for me to have a completely different sound source for both sides. It was better to have a tone that matched more on both sides. So all these things that we go through, and Don was part of my inspiration. I remember, Don sending a list, or it was on his website, all the amplifiers he had used, and I was just, stunned to see the process that he went through. So I'm glad my process was near as long as his. So yeah, simple.
Right.
Simple's good.
So, but like I get the impression that you're more of an organic, I should say maybe intuitive approach to not only songwriting but performance. Because when I've gigged with you, and we've done a couple of house concerts together, the thing that I haven't seen anyone else do before is, and it's funny because when we were setting up to gig, you said, okay, so what are you going to play? What songs are you going to play? And I'm like, well, I haven't figured it out yet. I mean, I got an idea. And he's like, okay, well, and he kept, it wasn't like you were hounding me, but it was like, yeah, I just want to hear about your songs. What are you hearing about your songs? So, and the reason why I was doing this was not any kind of stalker kind of a thing going on. It was more so that he was planning his set around my set, so that, like, looking at our performance as a whole,
yeah.
And so that if I was to play like something dark and corrupt, he was going to be playing something to complement that, something pure and and good and light and spiritual and integrity filled, and I mean, of course I'm being farcical about it, but it was interesting to have someone approach the performance as a whole with such a sense of intuitiveness, because sonically, everyone that was going to be there was going to receive our music together. So that was I thought that was quite brilliant.
Well, thank you, Dale, and I just want to completely shoot your theory down.
Okay, I quit, man. I'm out of here. Russell, you take over.
I say that with love. What I mean is the reason why I asked you that before the concert is because I didn't want to be thinking all the way through one of your songs, oh my God, what should I play next? I wanted to have some time to think about it, to sit with it before we started playing. And
No
I,
way.
yeah, and I completely agree that it's all about the two of us having the experience together. But again, coming back to the songwriting, something that I didn't say is, the music, I can create the music really quickly. That's never been an issue. What I really struggle with is, the words. I end up, creating the melody, the whole thing, and then I'm like shoehorning lyrics into predetermined rhythms and melodies, and I don't know how to do it any other way. That's just the way, and so I sit. I have Leonard Cohen moments where I'm banging my head on the floor looking for the perfect word. And I remember taking great comfort out of hearing him say that, there was one song that took him 3 years to finish because he was, so that's how I write. The music is fast and then the words are. And because I'm so picky, by the time I'm finished with the lyric and I like it, I think, okay, this is going to work because if it makes it through my filters, it's probably going to work for most people. Except for Jana, who, of course, shows me how it can be even better. But that's the gift of a great songwriter.
Excellent, excellent. So, are you heading out to any other of your list of countries that you want to hit this year, or are you staying fairly West Coast bound?
Well, that's a very good question. What looks like is going to happen is Jenna and I are moving more deeply into the whole speaking experience, and it looks like early in 2015 we will be relocating to Las Vegas for several reasons. It's a central location, it's easy to fly in and out of, and there's a lot going on in the speaker world in Las Vegas, and there's some speakers that we know specifically who live there. One who is worthy of mentioning is Mike Rayburn. He's a fantastic performer, and he just did something. Jen and I attended the annual NSA, National Speakers Association conference, which happened in San Diego about 3 weeks ago. And Mike blew everyone away. He did a duet with himself as a hologram. It was absolutely mind-boggling. He did a guitar duet. He said, and I found out since that he worked on it for about 5 months, practicing, and it was just absolutely riveting. So, anyway, Mike is in Las Vegas. Jan has been a good friend of his for years, so we're both looking forward to hanging out with him and learning with him, growing with him.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to open it up to questions here for dear Nathen, and I'm just wondering, Russell, do you want to steer?
And just before we start, Russell, I just want to apologize. Like, I see that people have been writing notes as we've been going, and where I'm standing, I can barely read it. So
they're not for you.
No.
They're not for you. That's us talking about you behind your back. Or in front of you, actually. So.
Right. Before you go to read them, let me know and I'll erase them. Okay, I'll let's go through some questions. Rob, I believe you had a couple of questions.
Yes. Before I forget, I'd like to go back to that TC unit. What is the name of that? From the chassis, it looks like it's part of the Nova series.
It is part of the Nova series. I'm very impressed that you could see that. It's the NR1, a programmable digital reverb. And I got to tell you something, I'm definitely buying this thing. It is such an incredible little unit. The verb, like the hall verb, and the plate, we have tin, silver, and gold. Yeah, I'm so impressed with it because it sounds so real. TC Electronics is a great name. Like, we got a lot of their gear in our studio, but I've never played through any of their effects units. I think they're fairly new. But
Oh,
yeah, I
thanks.
would highly recommend playing at least the melody side through through. They're a little high end, but you know, you get what you pay for. So
Yeah, well, I should probably stop myself. I'm a massive gear hound, actually. Which leads me to my question for Nathan. What's your relationship to effects in terms of your writing? Do you write with effects? Do you write before you add effects? How do you work that?
That's a great question. No, I don't think I write with effects in mind. Um, that's a really interesting question.
Well, so you don't write with effects in mind, but do you have the effects enabled as you write and tweak parameters to make the song sound right?
Hmm. You know, for me, I think I'm thinking about the best way to answer your question. I think the best answer I could give you is about figuring out what the feel is first. And so, for instance, I do this kind of slow blues shuffle thing. So for me, that immediately meant tremolo. And so then I found the tremolo sound and I tweaked it and made it great. There was another song that was kind of to me, in my ears, kind of sounded like a ZZ Top kind of thing. So I found a great distortion sound. So for me, it's about the feel first, and then the feel dictates what the effect would be. And so the sounds that I use are distortion. Chorus is kind of my, I try not to use it too much, but chorus is like my backbone sound because I just like the way it thickens up the melody side. Distortion, Leslie speaker kind of effect. And something that I'm really happy that I've just figured out on this Pod HD500X is I really like using tremolo, and I've preset two kinds of tremolo, one to work as eighth notes and one to work as eighth note triplets. And so depending on what the feel and the time signature is of the tune, I can use either one of those to greater effect. So anyway, good question. Thank you.
cool. Okay, I'm going to pick on everybody here. What about you, Greg?
I don't know if I'm turned on.
Yep.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on an iPad, so I'm still figuring it out. No, not at the moment. I'm just enjoying listening, and not at the moment.
All right.
I had a question.
We have yes, we have a fedora clad man who has a question. I think your name is Gene. Is that right?
Yeah, I thought I'd drop by. So for starters, Nathan, huge fan, and I really enjoyed looking at some of the stuff on your site, and saw that there was a guitarist that you had done some collaborations with, and you guys work so well together. And I love the way you are. Man, like watching you play bass, you're not even looking what you're doing at all. Like you're just ripping these bass lands in your left hand, and then you're complementing what you're doing so well in the right hand. I've seen Oliver or Olivier. Someone help me. Olivier.
Yeah, from Switzerland.
He does it really well too, and it just seems just like effortless. And I know that takes a lot of. Maybe it doesn't take a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice for me. So anyways, I just like to start with that. That's like one of the things that I've come to appreciate about you, and what I really like about your playing. And so one of the questions I have for you was, and maybe I got here a little bit late, was the work that you did with the Vancouver seminar.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been playing for a long time, and maybe that's already been covered. But can you tell us a little bit about Vancouver and like Jim and kind of the history there?
Yeah, I'll be happy to, and I would like to say something about what you said about me not looking at my hands. So first about the history, I was saying before you came on the phone that on the call, I should say that I went to my first stick seminar in Fullerton, California in May of '96. Bob and Greg were teaching, Bob Culbertson and Greg Howard. I decided to organize my first event in September in Vancouver, September of '96. 17 people came from as far away as California and from Edmonton. And I had so much fun, I did it again the next year, and in '97, and then I couldn't keep doing it because I started touring, so I wasn't able to commit to a regular weekend. So there was nothing that happened for a few years, and then Jim Meyer took it over in 2000. And Jim was at both, I think he was at both of the events that I started. And it was just great. At that time, it was still very unusual to have a room full of stick players together. And for me, the thing I love the best about that is just walking around the room and seeing what everybody has. And it amazes me that you could get a dozen stick players in the room and everybody has a different tuning. Everybody's got a different wood. Everybody's using different effects. Everybody's got a different amplifier. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
because they're all handmade, you can't do that. You can't go to Stick Enterprises and ask for that. That's the best way that you can figure out what works best for you, is to go to a seminar and try them all on yourself.
And then they're all playing it differently too. So you'll have guys that are, you've got the thumb over the fretboard, on the traditional kind of 10-string instruments, or maybe they're playing uncrossed, or they're using, all 9 fingers on the grid, So yeah, I agree with that, and that is definitely one of my favorite parts.
So just as you're saying that, Gene, I'm thinking of just three examples of that. One of the guys who came to the seminar in '97 in California was left-handed. So it was wild to watch him play left-handed. His stick was the wrong way. Francesco, I can't remember his last name, from Italy, came to one of those, and he had a quarter fretless stick. Right, so that was amazing to see, and all of us were just all over that, wanted to try that. And at the Vancouver seminar for the last 2 years, there's this young girl. I think she's a guitar player. She's a teenage Asian girl, and her whole world is pink. And she got Emmett to make her this pink Chapman Stick, and apparently they had to mess around to get like the right shade of pink and put on several coats of paint. And so there she is. She's got this beautiful pink Chapman Stick. It's just,
That's Diane.
Yeah, that caused a lot of debates on the stickist.com. There were a lot of questions about that, and so.
So you say the other thing, Gene, about not looking at my hands. Two things. One is, the NS is the same tuning as a regular bass, so I know where the notes are. I've been playing bass in '76, so it's a no-brainer for that. It's just the difference is, instead of plucking, I'm tapping, but I know where all the notes are, so I don't need to look at them. And the second thing is completely practical, and I learned this pretty quickly too, that if I'm looking at my hands all the time and I have a mic in front of my face, if my head is down, then the mic is on my forehead. I can't sing into the mic. So it behooves me to learn to not look at my hands so that I can not only sing into the mic, but also be present to the people that I'm singing, trying to. So,
well, you
go ahead.
You do that part so well. You're very aware of it and what's going on, like while you're performing, and that's kind of what I noticed also. Like you've got that performance part down, where you're looking at the audience, you're engaging people, and it makes for it's fun to watch.
Thank you. And that's coming back to some things that I've said to Dale in this hour. That's an important part of what I do. I'm all about wanting to connect with the audience. So it's important to me that I'm looking at people as I'm singing to them, because I am singing to them.
Cool. That answered my question for sure, and I like getting the backstory on what you and Jim started up there.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
And something that I said to Gene before we started, the wonderful thing about leading a seminar is you get to have these great relationships with the people who decide to come and teach. So, and every single fantastic stick player, including you, Dale, just really kind, generous, sweet, humble people who are willing to give up a weekend of their time because of the passion they have for this instrument, to come to get on a plane with, travel thousands of miles just for the joy of being with other players, and who are willing to, sleep on the floor in a sleeping bag, or whatever, just so that they could be a part of this event. I've experienced that over and over and over again, and it's really lovely, the spirit that exists in this community.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. Pretty much everyone that's signed up, at least for the Freehands Academy, is offered to volunteer. So, I mean, when you consider that, like, all these people, they want to be a part of it, they want to enjoy it, but they're also saying, is there anything I can help with? So I mean, people want to feel part of something, and and why not have it be something musical in nature, and something that's fun, and stick players are very unique individuals, like you said.
By the way, Dale, is it? Are we past the point of everyone knowing about TL coming to the event? Am I allowed to share the TL story?
Yes.
I am.
Yes, we are
Okay.
past the point. Jean made the announcement a while ago. July 1st,
So-
Canada Day, I think.
So Tony Levin, I'm really excited that I'm finally going to get a chance to meet Tony. I certainly have seen Tony in videos and seen him perform, but I actually got up the gumption in 1983, I think it was. I was watching King Crimson perform the Three of a Perfect Pair tour, and I was just blown away by Tony. And I had met Jaco Pastorius 2 years earlier, and I thought maybe lightning will strike twice, and I'll be able to meet Tony. I went to the sound man. He said, "No, that's not going to happen." But here's the address of their management company in New York. So I wrote Tony a letter and just told him how much I enjoyed his playing and his energy. And then I thought, gee, if I were Tony, it would probably be a good idea for him to learn a little bit about me, so he knows kind of where I'm coming from. And so what I did in those days for both Jaco and Tony this particular day, I sent them both letters with self-addressed return envelopes with postage on them. And I went away for a vacation about a week later, and I came back from vacation, and they had both replied. And the message from Tony was great, and I still have it. In fact, I brought it with me, and I'm bringing it with me to Free Hands Academy because I want Tony to see it and laugh. Because Tony wrote this lovely kind of 3/4 of a page saying, "Thanks so much for your note. Just coming back from a gig I did in Paris. Love the King Crimson tour. This is where I'm at. Happy to hear about your schooling." I asked him about stand-up, and was he still playing stand-up? But anyway, it was a beautiful letter. And he said a couple of times, and again, his last line, again, "Thanks for writing," and he signed it in his signature. So I want to get a picture of myself with him at Free Hands Academy with this note and have him sign it a second time at the bottom. And so that's been a prized possession.
So you can compare the signatures?
But that's
Right. Make sure it was real.
That's been a prized possession of mine for 31 years.
A lot of people have really great Tony Levin stories. I've heard a couple now, and and if I could just kind of chime in with my own, I remember, thinking about maybe asking him to do the Free Hands Academy stuff, and I was really nervous about it because he was my window into the instrument, like so many people.
Yeah.
And I was trading phone calls with Emmett, and I think I'd talked to Steve Adelson about it as well, and going back and forth. And I called Stick Enterprises one day, and Yuta's like, "Oh, he's a nice guy. Here's his email address. Why don't you just write to him?" And so I wrote to him, and like 10 minutes later, he's like, "Oh, this sounds like fun. Yeah, like tell me the date. Tell me the date." And I was like, do you want to know other people that are involved? And I think I sent him a link to maybe like the picture of all of us together or something. And like each time I had any sort of opportunity to talk with him, it's very such the same situation. He writes back. He's very cordial. Doesn't use like professional management. He keeps it all very personal. And every time I've written to him, I think it's taken him about like 15 minutes to reply to me. He's like, "Yep, that sounds good. Why don't we do this? Yep, this sounds good. Why don't we do that?" And so I'm looking forward to more, Tony Levin. Oh, okay. So Emmett, I spoke to Emmett briefly. I was trying to get Emmett on the call to see if he'd join us again this week. He's super busy.
Yeah.
But he said to say hi, and he said he's really looking forward to seeing the program. What else? He's like, Gene, you've got to give Emmett, or you've got to give Tony the microphone. You've got to give him a lot of space because he's a classic performer, and he'll have everyone in stitches. He says he still has an audio tape from Tony from the 80s, like out in Boston or something, and he said that he had everyone rolling. So I'm hopeful that there'll be lots of opportunities to interact for everyone with him, even though there's only one of him. You know, I'm hoping we can kind of spread him kind of thin so that everyone gets a chance to make their own Tony story.
Yeah, I'll tell you my Tony story when we're in LA. Russell, you had were you done, Jean? Jean, were you done?
Oh yeah. Thank you very much, Nathan. Thank you so much.
Russell, you had a question for Nathan, didn't you?
Right. Yeah, I actually had two questions. Nathan, you mentioned that you're processing the treble side, the top 4 strings, and not the 4 bass side strings, the lower strings. How much of an effort do you have to make sure that the hands don't cross over, since the continual tuning is so inviting for that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Russell. And what I realized that an approach that I adopted fairly quickly, I think, was thinking horizontally when I play instead of vertically, so that I don't have that issue. If I'm just playing if I'm just playing a bass line, I will switch to. Most of the time, I try to stay in stereo. But if I'm doing a song, if I'm playing in a band situation and I'm just playing bass on a song, I'll switch to mono and just give myself a little bit more level with the volume pedal. Volume pedal is a wonderful thing to have to make sure that your level is consistent from song to song. So when I'm in mono, then I don't have to worry about crossing over to those higher strings. But generally speaking, if I'm processing stuff on the top end, I will play notes higher up on the bass side. So it's interesting. You sort of just take that into consideration, that you can't, in that particular approach, you're not going any higher than the D string. And so it's, it's interesting. And at first it's like, it's a limitation, but it's not. It's just a different way to look at it.
Okay, and then completely the opposite side, you mentioned about getting your grand. How do you plan on making that transition? I can imagine interpreting all of your current material to that. Are you going to play both of them? What's in the works?
That's like the $64,000 question. Everyone wants to know.
I have a couple of answers to that. What happened for me was I put out my first CD of my own music in March of 2007, and at the time there's Stick all over it, but I was just using it conventionally, just to play bass or just to play guitar. I wasn't tapping with both hands. And when Don said, do yourself a favor and put the guitar away, my first assignment to myself was to learn my own songs on stick, to translate them to the NS. So to answer your question, Russell, that's what I think is. I tend to be very practical with my goals. I need to have something that will spur me on to get to the end goal, which is to learn how to play on it. And so that's what I think I'll need to do, is learn my own songs, learn other songs. I've always been kind of very song focused in terms of learning. And the difference now is, now that I feel comfortable on the NS, I'm realizing that on the Chapman Stick, the right hand of the Chapman Stick and the right hand of the NS are the same, right? It's fourths. So there's nothing new, because my right hand now understands that it's playing a chordal job or a melody job, and it understands that. Now I can turn my attention to my left hand. So it seems like a roundabout way to do it, but I needed to kind of come to something that was a middle ground. It was more comfortable turf before I could then really get into something that's a little more unusual in the Chapman Stick thing. And while I'm thinking of it, there's one idea that I want to share more than any other idea on this call, and I'm glad I'm remembering to mention it, because I'm really excited about it, and I hope that it will give you and whomever else watches this some hope, because it certainly made me feel a lot better. I just realized in the last couple of years what the secret to practicing is. And this may sound obvious to a lot of you, but it wasn't obvious to me. I realized that I had a preconceived notion about how long things should take. I'm a recovering perfectionist. So if I couldn't get a lick in half an hour or an hour or a day or a week, I would think I was stupid, untalented, yada, yada, yada. The internal voices were just beyond 11. And when I realized that when I released myself from the time element of how long it would take to perfect something, it changed everything for me. Because practice is just about doing something until it's perfect. Nobody said it should take 15 minutes or a day or whatever. So when that finally went in, I was able to enjoy practicing much more and allow myself to get better at something over the course of a day, a week, or however long it would take until something got under my fingers. So it made practicing pleasurable instead of a real source of judgment and conflict, and I'm not as good as ... So I say that because it completely changed practicing for me, and I'm hoping that it may be of help to somebody else who will see this interview. And that comes back to... Sorry, I was just going to say, Dale, that just comes back to what you were saying, Gene. It's just, you know, continuing to do that, not looking at the next thing until you get it. You don't get it right away because it's hard.
Right.
You know? It's
the hard parts. The hard parts are the parts you haven't played enough yet.
Exactly. Exactly. And
okay, so sorry, go ahead.
One more thing there connected to that. So I'm also a huge fan of using a metronome, slowing things down till you find the tempo where you can do something, slowly working it up. It's programming new information into your fingers, into your psyche, and not only that, using the metronome is proof that you're improving. Like, wow, I could only do this at 40 yesterday. Now I'm doing it at 140 or whatever the case may be. Okay, Dale, I'm ready.
All right. We have one more follow-up question from Rob.
Yes,
Rob, yeah, there you are.
All right. I'm sorry to focus on effects. I just wanted to mention that to warn you not to overlook sort of unconventional effects for your bass side, like compression, subharmonic generation, things like that. The world of pods is so large that there's a lot more than chorus and tremolo and delay and so forth.
Yeah. I will tell you, Rob, I have played with the bass side. I did try compression. I did try using amp sounds. And in my journey, what happened was I found that no matter what I did to it, it was problematic. I gravitated towards using a powered monitor. That's my gear of choice because that's what I end up playing in most of the places I go to. I plug into something and I have a powered monitor in front of me, a Mackie or I can't remember the names of the other ones. I'm sure you guys know what I mean. So that being the case, a speaker box that has a very flat response, I'm trying to not color it very much or color it just a little bit. And I found after messing around with the bass side that just rolling off the top end so that it sounds more like a bass and just adding the bass, which is a part of this fantastic, beautiful instrument, was enough. It was the sound that I wanted. I didn't need anything else. And I will tell you right now, in large capital letters, I hate compression. I hate a machine telling me what the dynamic range of my fingers should be. So I never use compression on either side. I use compression when I'm recording because I have to, but I hate using compression live. It makes me feel like I can't be as expressive as I'd like to be. And, I literally, in some instances, in some of the places that I play, I take my playing right down to a whisper, vocally and playing-wise. I'm barely making enough sound to create. I'm barely using enough pressure to create sound on the strings. So that's extremely important to me to have all that range. So compression, like, never will you catch me using compression.
All right.
It's just me.
Well, on that note, we're at time right now, but I just wanted to make one comment before I hand it back to Russell. It's a joy to hear you and see you play, and honor to call you my friend. Every time I get to see you, aside from being an Olympic hugger, you are a joy, and the music that you provide is a real gift because it comes from such a beautiful place. I just wanted to say that you were mentioning that you shoehorn your lyrics, and I would like to offer to you that if your shoehorn breaks, to try, especially when you have the 12-string grand, to try to use or have lyrics come to you through that stream of consciousness approach. So that it might, you know, like, and you can't be a perfectionist about that, but record everything and and just run with it and just try and tap into, you know, the channel that you are so in tune with normally. I could see that being quite an easy vehicle for you, and maybe at times it would be an easier. You may be surprised with what comes to you.
Yeah, there are two things that I'm grateful to you for, Dale. One is that, and I've heard you talk about that. You mentioned that I've heard you talk about that a couple of times, the notion of connecting to stream of consciousness stuff. And yeah, I completely agree. I think there's some real juice there. And the other thing that I heard you say when I was listening to your Freehands interview, talking about something that I heard Emmett say years ago, being attracted to things geometrically, just liking shapes. So just ways that we can open the box, ways that we can look at things in a new way. And I think the big struggle that, you know, we've talked about using the phrase thinking like a songwriter. I think my big sin or my big mistake or error was trying to make the stick into something else, thinking of it as a bass and a guitar instead of treating it as a stick. So, God, it's so hard to do this bass and guitar thing on this instrument. Well, yeah, because that's not what it is. It's like that, but it's not that. So that's my intention, is to really begin to accept the instrument on its own terms and have it reveal to me its beauty, which I think I can be much more ready and able to do then. Yeah.
Right on. Okay, Russell.
Okay, thanks, Dale. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing your stories. I could feel the positive energy behind your stories and the passion you put into what you're talking about. So that was really cool to hear you and to have you here. So thank you so much. I'll go through what's coming up on July 25th. We have Rick Beyer, and Dale's going to be here again interviewing Rick. And then on August 3rd, Greg Howard. And then for the rest of August, we have Freehands Academy broadcasts. August 10th, August 17th, the State of the Stick, and August 24th, there will be a follow-up. So that's what's coming up. Thank you, everybody, for watching us. We had a couple of people that were not participating, but were watching. We'll have a whole bunch of people watching the recording of this. Oh, and I just saw from here, Greg will be interviewed by Jim Meyer, so that'll be cool. So thanks, everyone. Happy
I think Nathan has a question.
Oh. Who's putting a question in my wrap-up? Oh, it's Gene. Okay, you got a hat on. You can have.
Gene?
Nathan, did you have a question?
I just wanted to mention something.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, you know, in very much in the spirit of this community and my life in general, I would like anybody on this list and anybody who sees this video to consider me as a resource. If there's anything that I can help you with in your composing or your playing, I'd be happy to do that. My email address is nathenaswell@me.com. That's nathenaswell@me.com. And if you want to know more about who I am and what I'm up to, my website is nathenaswell.com. So.
Yeah, and the site is very informative. I'll be the first to say I spent like a good hour on that site watching videos and learning about Nathan. So Nathen with an E, aswell.com, an excellent resource for stickists, NS players, and people in that realm.
Thanks, Gene.
Cool. So go check it out. That's it for us. Happy Freehands Friday, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.